Letterman show.
Time now for NBC Nightly News.
Jim Baker headed back to an old White House job, Chief of Staff. A bittersweet farewell, getting out of Sarajevo, getting out of harm's way. And high-octane gasoline, paying for more than you need.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. James Baker will leave his job as Secretary of State and try to revive the re-election campaign of his old friend George Bush. This move has been in the works for weeks now, and tonight NBC's John Cochran has learned Baker will be much more than a campaign guru. John?
Tom, according to Republican Party sources, Jim Baker will come to the White House as Chief of Staff, replacing Sam Skinner. The announcement could come as early as tomorrow.
Baker left the White House today after what may have been his last foreign policy meeting with the president as Secretary of State. Baker's latest success was one he treasured: Bush's meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Rabin this week, part of Baker's struggle to get Arab-Israeli peace talks into high gear. Baker was chief architect for the historic Mideast Peace Conference last fall. But when talks resume in Washington this month, Baker's deputy, Lawrence Eagleburger, is expected to take over as acting Secretary of State. The Democratic ticket was meeting with Rabin today, with Bill Clinton complaining about Baker's expected departure.
I hope that the move does not slow the move toward peace in the Middle East or otherwise weaken our responsibilities.
But although Baker will leave the State Department, he will still play a big role in foreign policy from the White House.
I think he's just adding a new dimension to his portfolio. Jim Baker's going to be Secretary of State whether he holds the job or not.
Baker will also try to get a grip on domestic policy in a White House which has lacked direction under Sam Skinner. But Baker's main job is to get his friend's re-election campaign on track.
Jim Baker doesn't walk on water, but he knows where the rocks are. And he'll make sure that George Bush only steps on the right ones.
Baker knows how to manage a come-from-behind campaign. In 1976, President Gerald Ford was 33 points behind in the polls. But with Baker's help, Ford came within a whisker of winning. And 4 years ago, Baker was top strategist for Bush's win over Michael Dukakis. Democrats know Baker is trouble for them. But can he revive the Bush campaign?
I don't know if it's too late for that campaign, but if he can give the American people some good reasons to re-elect George Bush, I think his skills will become even more legendary.
Baker will work at the White House, not at campaign headquarters, but no one doubts who will be running the campaign. On that score, Baker intends to be second to no one, with the possible exception of George Bush. Tom?
Thank you, John Cochran at the White House tonight. Today, the White House was also trumpeting a breakthrough economic development: the free trade agreement between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, bringing together 360 million consumers in a $6 trillion market. That's the world's largest. Our chief financial correspondent, Mike Jensen, has more tonight. Michael?
Tom, this has been a long time coming. It's very important, and on balance, it will be good for the United States.
This agreement will level the North American playing field, allowing American companies to increase sales from Alaska to the Yucatan.
If the agreement becomes law, Mexico will eliminate tariffs on U.S. products, averaging 10%. The U.S. will eliminate tariffs on Mexican goods, averaging 4%. The U.S. and Canada agreed 3 years ago to eliminate tariffs on things like furniture and salmon. For U.S. consumers, the new agreement would mean slightly cheaper prices for Mexican beer and oranges, for example. For U.S. companies, it would be easier to sell in Mexico and to open plants there with cheap labor. Workers make about 1/10 of what they earn in the United States, a sore point with the AFL-CIO.
The notion that the president's version of free trade is going to create more and better jobs in the United States is pure fantasy.
Most analysts, however, say the agreement would mean more U.S. jobs. One estimate has it eliminating about 150,000 mostly unskilled factory jobs in the U.S., but creating more than 300,000 jobs at U.S. companies that export and in industries like banking and securities, which would be allowed into Mexico. Mexican trucks would be able to drive all the way to Detroit instead of shifting their loads to U.S. trucks at the border, and vice versa. The agreement would make it more difficult for Asian and European countries to get around U.S. tariffs by shipping goods through Mexico. There are concerns about pollution along the U.S.-Mexico border, since Mexico has much looser standards. But overall, most analysts say the agreement would be very good for the United States. There'll be a lot of wrangling in Congress over this, and it's not a shoo-in. Most likely, it will pass next year. Then, the tariffs will be eliminated over a 15-year period. Tom?
Thanks, Mike. No breakthrough, but there was some relief for the administration, and more important, for the people of Sarajevo today, a welcome break in the killing season. And as NBC's Rick Davis tells us tonight, it came just in time for scores of women and children.
It was a day of many emotions wrapped in confusion. There was the hope of escape, the sorrow of families breaking apart, and for a time the fear that there would be no escape. 300 women and children gathered early this day, waiting for 5 buses to carry them out of Sarajevo. Names were called by the organizers, a local charity, Children's Embassy. Parents had made the most difficult decision to split the family. One father said, when his wife and child are safe, he will join the fight against the Serbs. A woman spoke of those who have battered her city for so long.
They are not normal human beings.
And many believe there is little chance of peace.
I hope the city has a future, but I think they will continue to shell the town.
Then the confusion. The buses did not come. There were rumors the deal guaranteeing safe passage had fallen apart. But after a 5-hour wait, the buses rolled into Sarajevo. A bridge had been destroyed along their planned route. They had to take another way. People who have little left but their families now said goodbye to those families. Water was thrown, a kind of prayer, a blessing for loved ones leaving, a Bosnian tradition. Some will travel far, to Germany, to Austria, a few to nearby Croatia. There were claims that this would be the beginning of a mass exodus of women and children from Sarajevo. It will not be. Permission for this convoy is written just for it, nothing else. And the safe passage was only for this day. On August 1st, there was a safe passage guarantee, but snipers killed 2 children as that bus left Sarajevo. This time there was a UN escort, but that is no guarantee of safety here. The lyrics of the song are, love is the sea, love is the sky. They had escaped from a place where death often poured from the sky. Rick Davis, NBC News, Sarajevo.
When Nightly News continues in a moment, paying more for what at the gasoline pump? And on America Close Up tonight, Big Easy hopes for big spenders.
So you just got a cash advance, did you? Too bad you used an ordinary credit card, because you could be carrying some very heavy interest charges. Why not carry the Discover card? Just pay your full monthly balance and a small transaction fee, and we'll forget the interest, which means our money comes with no strings attached. It pays to Discover.
In art, taste is subjective, but in life, good taste is well defined. Fancy Feast gourmet cat food, exceptionally moist and delicious. Fancy Feast. Good taste is easy to recognize.
Hey, there's a really big Dollar Day sale going on right now at Ace. Yep, $1 buys any one of these Ace Best Buys. Over 2 dozen for just $1 a piece. Look for Ace really big Dollar Day circulars and come in today. Hey, Ace is the place.
High-octane fuel, some call it gourmet gasoline. It can cost more than $1,000 extra over the life of your car. And a study out today says that for most people, that's a waste of money. NBC's Irving R. Levine has more tonight.
Chester Gitlin was filling up today with high-octane gas, believing, as do many Americans, that it's worth the extra money because it generates more power and keeps the engine clean to prevent knocking.
I've always used the highest octane, and I feel like I get the performance I'm looking for.
But according to the study by a consumer interest group, high-octane premium gas provides no advantage for most cars, can actually reduce engine efficiency, and adds to air pollution. The study estimates that Americans waste $3 billion a year on unneeded premium gas, and it puts the blame on ads it calls misleading.
High-octane VP Super Gasoline cleans their entire fuel intake system.
Premium accounts for 20% of total gasoline sales. Only about 3% of cars need it.
We're talking here about Porsche, Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Jaguar, Mercedes.
The oil industry dismisses the study.
These charges are absolutely ludicrous. We disagree entirely with the points being made.
Still, in one recent case, Sunoco agreed to withdraw premium gas ads after the Federal Trade Commission charged it contained false claims. Today's study recommends that new cars list the proper octane next to the standard unleaded fuel-only label as a guide to drivers. The easiest way, though, to determine your car's octane needs is simply to look in the driver's manual, if you can remember where you put it. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, Washington.
Testing for AIDS. There's a report out today by the Centers for Disease Control that says if hospitals actively encourage voluntary testing, they might uncover more than 100,000 unrecognized HIV infections every year. NBC Science correspondent Robert Bazell.
At this clinic for sexually transmitted diseases in Denver, staff members actively encourage patients to get tested for the AIDS virus. People with infections such as gonorrhea or syphilis are at high risk for AIDS.
How many episodes of herpes have you had?
In this migrant farm worker camp in South Carolina, public health officials urge the workers to get tested for the AIDS virus. Studies show a huge HIV incidence among such workers.
I want to. You're smart.
So far, most efforts to get people tested for HIV have been targeted at such high-risk populations. But these efforts are finding only a tiny percentage of the estimated 1 million infected Americans. Very few testing efforts are carried out in hospitals. But the study from the CDC found that hospitals might be the best place for voluntary testing.
We found that there's a potentially large number of HIV-infected patients in hospitals who have unsuspected HIV infection.
The CDC concluded that aggressive testing efforts in hospitals in 1 year could find 110,000 infected people.
Many of them will have the risk factors if you probe deep enough, but a majority are also unwilling or unable to confront those risk factors and to seek testing and counseling.
AIDS activists worry there are not enough medical facilities available for people who test positive.
Voluntary testing without the services will accomplish nothing other than create a large population of very distraught people who have no access to services.
Almost everyone agrees testing should be voluntary. The fear is that mandatory testing will drive people who suspect they are infected away from the medical care system and make AIDS spread even faster. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
We have some more economic news tonight. Inflation remains on a slow track, it turns out. Wholesale prices rose just 0.1% in July. Energy costs were down and food prices remained unchanged. On Wall Street, stocks closed down in moderate trading.
I was really downing those tablets. Come on, they're not candy. I started to think there was something really wrong with my stomach. I was relieved when my doctor told me to try a new antacid tablet.
Introducing Mylanta tablets, shown to neutralize more stomach acid than the leading tablet.
Unbelievable.
New Mylanta tablets.
My doctor said Mylanta.
I caught you doing 70.
We've got to get to Color Tile store-wide summer clearance. Up to 50% off all over the store.
Vinyl tile, half price.
Ceramic tile, half price.
Mini blinds, buy one, get three free.
Wall covering, $2.99. Dubai Stainmaster carpet, up to 50% off.
Oh, wood floors, up to 50% off.
Hurry.
Up to 50% off ceramic tile.
Vinyl floors.
And Stainmaster carpet.
It's Color Tile's
store-wide summer clearance, coast to coast.
You save the most.
Up to 50%.
Sale ends Monday. Why are these people smiling? They've got Polident for partials with the power to clean the pearly part and the metal part in just 5 minutes. So get Polident for partials, because, hey, it's good looking on almost everybody.
After examining, testing, it's a fact.
You can buy new Preparation H hydrocortisone cream with the maximum strength available without a prescription to relieve problem itch. New Preparation H hydrocortisone cream. Prescription strength without a prescription.
On America Close Up tonight, gambling on the future. Cities and states in this country desperate for cash now are turning to legalized casinos for badly needed revenue. New Orleans, the country's third poorest city, is the latest. 3 others are also considering it: Chicago and Hartford, and Bridgeport, Connecticut. NBC's Betty Rowland begins her report in the Big Easy.
Way down yonder in New Orleans, it's the land of those dreams, you see. It's a Garden of Eden, you know what I mean.
Well, not exactly a Garden of Eden. And gambling of a sort has been around for years. But legislation recently was passed, some say rammed through by Governor Edwin Edwards, that will allow a 200,000 square foot casino right next to the French Quarter. The mayor says the casino is the only way to end the city's financial blues.
There is no industry or business that I've found that would create the kind of thing that this casino will create for downtown New Orleans.
Money, jobs, and increased tourism are what's hoped for, and the mayor isn't the only one who's hoping.
It's slow a little bit, but the casino, if it'll help, I'd like to see it.
But many locals are angered that the state will get the lion's share, 18% of the take, or $100 million, whichever is greater, while the city will only get the rent from the property, which initially could be as low as $5 or $10 million. This is the site of the casino to be, where the dice may roll as soon as next spring. Those in favor of the gambling law say this will be the only casino in New Orleans, and that will keep it from becoming a gambling town. The mayor recently visited Atlantic City to get a few pointers. After 16 years, gambling has not solved this city's problems. The casinos along the boardwalk thrive, while much of the town still looks like this. Critics point to a catch-22, that one casino won't produce enough revenue to save the city, and that more casinos would ruin it.
It's just physically impossible for that many people to come into one limited facility and bet that much to get those kinds of large revenue numbers.
So one casino won't do it, but what if there are more?
Well, that's the concern. If we get multiple casinos, then New Orleans becomes a casino town.
And what's wrong with that?
And casino towns are not viewed by the business community as a good place to do business,
nor possibly as a good place to visit.
People want to come to this city because it's unusual. It's different from the rest of America. This casino will change its character.
New Orleans has taken a gamble on its future. Will its character change? And will what some call this pact with the devil pay off? Betty Rowland, NBC News, New Orleans.
In the last few years, legalized gambling has blossomed across this country. More than 100 casinos, the reservations for Native Americans, riverboat gambling in 4 states, legalized poker parlors in 3 others. More to come? Experts say, bet on it.
Know where I am? I'm at one of the finest resorts in the world. And if you're looking for a great vacation value, look no more. All your daytime fun, all your nighttime entertainment, and all your food is included in one low price. But what makes this resort really great is that it takes you to some of the world's other great vacation spots.
In the morning, in the evening, Carnival's got the fun.
Fun. That's what makes Carnival the most popular cruise line in the world.
I'm not going to buy just any tire.
Before you buy new tires, test these first. Bridgestone road handlers from Sears. Drive them anywhere for 1,000 miles. If you're not convinced new Bridgestone road handlers are the best tires you've ever driven, Sears will replace them free.
When they say it's guaranteed, it's guaranteed.
Now with reduced prices, Bridgestone road handlers, backed by lifetime free replacement, only at Sears.
Dear Folgers, I run a bed and breakfast. When I overslept one morning, the Folgers switch saved my reputation. The percolator wasn't even set up. So I secretly switched Folgers crystals for the brewed coffee I normally serve.
This is delicious.
Well, the taste and aroma must have fooled them, because they were shocked when I revealed the switch and joked about sounding like one of your restaurant commercials.
Folgers Crystals, proven to surprise fresh brewed coffee drinkers.
Sincerely, Janet Turley.
Nighttime, one of the worst times for pain. Minor arthritis pain, muscle aches, pain that seems to go on. That's why you need Ultra Strength Bengay, the strongest Bengay ever. You can say goodnight to your pain with Ultra Strength Bengay.
Domino's Pepperoni Passion. Now get pepperoni pizza deal starting at $6.99.
Nobody knows like Domino's.
Deal starting at $6.99.
The battle over family values and journalistic values dominated the campaign today, one day after President Bush angrily denied a tabloid report that he'd had an affair. First Lady Barbara Bush addressed the issue in an interview with NBC's Jim Miklaszewski.
It's an outrageous lie. And the day we start letting lies run a campaign, instead of talking about the issues, is the day we're in sad shape. And I think the press ought to pull themselves up and look at what they're doing and behave themselves. They're taking a campaign and putting it on a level that it should not be.
The Republican convention opens Monday in Houston, and today party chairman Rich Bond fired up the GOP troops with an attack on Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary. Mrs. Clinton, a lawyer, has advocated the legal rights of children. Bond today claimed that she, quote, likened marriage and the family to slavery. Bill Clinton called Bond's attack pitiful. Also in Houston tonight, John Chancellor with his commentary.
Wonders never cease in politics. This week, the 1992 platform of the Republican Party actually accused the incumbent Republican president, George Bush, of a mistake. Nobody can remember anything like that happened before, ever, a party platform criticizing its own sitting president. But there it was. Language was said Mr. Bush's agreement in 1990 to a tax increase was a mistake. The president's men have taken that word out, but this little flap shows us how goofy things can get in the Republican Party. The fact is, the president's getting a bad rap on that tax increase. It was part of a deal with the Congress to reduce the deficit, which is necessary. It amounted to only $20 billion in new tax rates, which is a drop in the bucket these days. And it was a compromise, which is what politics is all about. But it was red meat to hot gospel supply-siders who act as though George Bush is a secret liberal hiding in a closet. Mr. Bush did make a mistake in 1988 when he said, read my lips, no new taxes. Presidents must never say never. But his acceptance of a compromise on new taxes 2 years later was done for the good of the country, and he deserves praise for that. Instead, the tax increase has become a totem in the tribal wars of the Republican Party, a bloody banner waved by the conservatives. They lost this battle this week, but we'll be hearing more about them next week. And I'll be back with more on the Republicans tomorrow.
See you then, John. Republican Senator Mark Hatfield of Oregon got a red mark beside his name today, but nothing more. The Senate Ethics Committee said Hatfield violated Senate rules by failing to disclose thousands of dollars worth of gifts. No punishment is anticipated.
At Red Lobster, it's going, and soon to be gone. Our full pound of shrimp special ends soon. Red Lobster knows you just can't get, enough shrimp. 10 grilled shrimp, 15 butterfly, 11 scampi. A full pound of our biggest and best shrimp. For a limited time, enjoy all the shrimp. There's so much, you may need a doggy bag.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover in you.
It may surprise you to learn who, over 30 years ago, was the first car maker to build cars with seat belts, to make safety glass standard. The first U.S. car maker to offer anti-lock brakes, and who today offers more models with dual airbags than any other manufacturer. That company is Ford Motor Company.
We're committed to making safety innovation an important part of quality.
Ford Motor Company. Quality is job one. It's working.
In our universe, there was always the unknown, the unpredictable. All we can do is prepare for it.
AT&T is now installing Fast Start. It can detect a cable cut instantly, so 800 calls can get back in minutes instead of hours.
We can send flowers for any occasion, anywhere, but only if our 800 service is up and running. Our 800 service isn't just a phone line, it's a lifeline.
I miss you. AT&T has the most reliable 800 service, period.
AT&T. Call us.
What if you could get the fiber you need for regularity in a crisp, delicious wafer? Well, now you can. Metamucil wafers. All the effectiveness of Metamucil, and it tastes like a cookie. Metamucil wafers.
Working your fingers to the bone? You deserve a fresh lunch. Use Ziploc brand sandwich bags with the gripper zipper. Tough, tiny teeth, you can feel gripping, so you know freshness is locked in. My favorite, finger sandwiches. There's only one, Ziploc.
Oscar De La Hoya, profiled on Nightly News 1 week ago, was the only American boxer to win a gold medal in the Barcelona Olympics, and today he brought that medal home. The 19-year-old champion lightweight came back to Los Angeles a winner, just as he promised himself and his late mother that he would. De La Hoya credits his family for keeping him in the ring and off the mean streets of East Los Angeles. Another American athlete is trying to make the transition from one high-risk job to another, from fighter pilot to cowboy, as in Dallas Cowboys. NBC's Jim Cummins.
During the Gulf War, it was the Warthogs, the A-10 fighter planes and their pilots who were considered the tough guys because they were the tank killers, flying low and slow through heavy enemy gunfire. Chad Hennings flew a Warthog.
There's nothing like it, getting down low at 250 feet, flying in the mountains of northern Iraq. Flying the A-10, shooting that 30-millimeter Gatling gun. That was a lot of fun, too, but there's nothing like probably playing professional football, too.
So this tough guy surprised the Dallas Cowboys when he asked to try out for the team. Hennings had, in fact, been drafted by the Cowboys in 1988 in one of the last rounds because team owners never expected him to play. Hennings, an Air Force Academy graduate, had volunteered to be a fighter pilot, a Top Gun, an 8-year commitment. With the fall of communism, the Air Force released Hennings 5 years sooner than expected.
And now it's time to get back and do something that I've been dreaming of since I was 11 years old.
But can he make the team? Hennings grew up on this big farm outside a small town in Iowa, worked the fields in the summer, played football in the fall, was ignored by all the big colleges until his high school coach drove 800 miles to the Air Force Academy.
They didn't know much about Chad. They didn't know what he was like. We threw a tape in the videotape, and all of a sudden, wow, this guy's a player.
A player indeed. Hennings won the Outland Trophy as the best college lineman in the country his senior year. But that was 5 years ago, and the naysayers complain Hennings, number 95, is now overrated. His parents don't think so.
He gets things in his mind that he's really going to do it, and he does.
But I really firmly believe he'll make it because of the type of a kid that he is.
Now his coaches are beginning to agree.
He plays sometimes better than he practices. I mean, he shows things in the games that I can see why he won the Outland Trophy when he was in college.
The same qualities that made him a Warthog pilot. His fantasy?
Have one grandchild sitting on one knee and one on the other. Tell this one a fighter pilot story and tell this one a football story, hopefully.
Don't bet against it. Jim Cummins, NBC News, Dallas.
Henning knocks the ball away.
That's Nightly News for Wednesday. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you again tomorrow night.
Just ahead from your 24-hour news source, off the plane and back home for a Milo woman who claims a kidnapper took her to Kansas.
The victim's husband is taking local law enforcement officials to task for their handling of the case. I'm Scott Pope. That report coming up.
The tragedy in Bosnia being felt here in central Iowa by those with family members forced to flee their homeland.
Plus, an update from the Twin Cities on the shooting death of a Johnston lawyer.
And Iowa farmers could see a bin-busting harvest. All the day's news coming up next.
It's a dream come true as the Home Builders Association of Greater Des Moines and the Des Moines Register present Home Show Expo 92. Tour 18 spectacular new homes at Huntington Ridge and Clyde.
Entertain me, St. Louis. Give me some romance. Do a little bird watching. Show me the sights. Wake up to St. Louis, the gateway to the west. That's true. The city by the river that'll surely deliver for anything that you want to do. Wake up to Missouri.
You never know what you'll see at the Iowa State Fair. The only fun of its kind, August 20th to 30th.
Oh, mama, don't feed me no bologna. I don't want no ham and cheese. I want something hot and hearty. I want a manwich, please. Don't feed me no bologna. I want a manwich, please. Now, I'm not talking turkey. I want a bigger deal. I don't feed me just a sandwich. I want a manwich meal. Don't feed me no bologna. I want a manwich meal. I want a manwich meal.
Starting at just $3.79, you can do lunch at Bonanza. That includes our Fresh-tastic salad bar with soups and dessert bar, plus our standard quick, friendly service. So, hey, let's do lunch soon, huh?
Live from WHO TV 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day. John Bachman, Kim Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with the weather. This is News Center 13 at 6.
I want to go home. A simple plea from a pregnant Milo woman returning to Des Moines after an alleged kidnapping, but today her husband has nothing but disgust for authorities.
Now, you know, everyone's out there saying, hey, go to Iowa, you take anyone you want. The police don't care. If some people don't get off their butts and get the police moving, then I'm afraid it's just going to get worse.
Good evening. The alleged kidnapping of Julie Whitman triggers anger from family members, skepticism from others.
The FBI is handling the case and won't deny or confirm her allegations of being kidnapped. However, investigators tonight say they consider the case a kidnapping. Julie Whitman claims she was forced at gunpoint to leave her Milo home a week ago. She turned up unharmed yesterday in Kansas and returned to Iowa last night. We have team coverage tonight, beginning with Kathy Soltero and the family's reunion.
It's been an extremely long 6 days, and we're just glad that it's over.
The 6-day ordeal for the Whitman family ended Tuesday night when Julie Whitman stepped off the chartered plane that brought her back to Des Moines. The 22-year-old Milo woman is 5 months pregnant. She was visibly shaken by the experience.
Julie, do you want to say anything, or do you have anything to say? I want to go home.
This is the route Whitman says her kidnapper forced her at gunpoint to drive to Wichita, Kansas. Her husband, Dale, says authorities let him down in the investigation. He said there was plenty of evidence to prove she was abducted.
The door was open and she was gone. A bunch of stuff was knocked over, and guns are missing, which the person still has them.
Dale Whitman even tried to take matters into his own hands. He dropped off this flyer here at WHO TV and other local media in hopes of trying to locate his wife and possible suspects. As it turns out, he says the couple may have even known the alleged kidnapper.
He was here on July 5th. I didn't think a lot about it. She said that Jehovah's Witness came to the door, and, you know, we don't talk to them. And she said it was really strange. She told him she didn't want to talk to him, and he said, congratulations on your twins, when he was leaving. And it's the same person.
In Des Moines, Kathy Soltero, News Center 13.
Now again, the Whitmans say Julie's alleged abductor was no stranger.
Here's the description provided authorities. A white male in his 30s, 5 feet 11 inches tall, heavy-set with brown hair. If you have any information that may help this investigation, call the Des Moines office of the FBI at 223-4278.
Julie Whitman's husband says that his first priority is to find the kidnapper and bring him to justice.
But he also says he's holding the Warren County Sheriff's Department accountable for what he calls dropping the ball in this case.
Team coverage continues with News Center 13's Scott Pope. In Milo today, talking with the Whitmans and town residents. Scott?
John, the Whitmans are still shaken, as you might imagine, over what's happened over the course of the past week. As you said, they think the Warren County Sheriff's Department dropped the ball in the handling of their case. But I found out today that Whitman's story has been a tough sell for a lot of Milo residents.
A lot about it.
Dale Whitman is relieved that his wife is home safe, but he is also bitter that his wife was missing for 4 days before local law enforcement agencies did anything about it.
The first thing they said was there's no blood, so there must not have been an abduction. Their second saying was that she's a woman who's pregnant, so things like this happen.
Once the abductor is caught, Whitman says he'll press for policy changes in the Sheriff's Department.
And now, you know, everyone's out there saying, hey, go to Iowa, you take anyone you want. The police don't care. If some people don't get off their butts and get the police moving, then I'm afraid it's just going to get worse.
The alleged kidnapping was the #1 topic of conversation at Fridley's Cafe in Milo today. Some people are scared. Others say they're not buying Whitman's story.
I don't think she was kidnapped. I just don't feel like she was.
Oh, it's up in the air. If they find a perpetrator, I'd be surprised.
I really don't think someone would come into a small town like this and kidnap somebody.
And it scared me when I heard it, to think that anything like that would happen in a small town like this.
Now, a few of the residents I talked to today say they do remember a couple of men claiming to be Jehovah's Witnesses in the Milo area over the past couple of days, and one of those men actually fit the description that Julie Whitman actually gave to authorities. But there has been no reports to the Sheriff's Department of any suspicious people from the Milo area in the past week. Kim?
Thank you, Scott. News Center 13 tried repeatedly last night and again today to get information from authorities in this Whitman case. Warren County Sheriff Jim Lewis has been out of the office all day and did not return any of our calls. Meantime, FBI agent Kevin Curran in Des Moines simply said the investigation is underway and it is being treated as an abduction.
James Patton has pleaded guilty to charges that he planned to rob a bank. It was last week in Linville that authorities nabbed Patton outside the First State Bank. He was arrested inside his car as he was pulling a white bandana over his face. The 21-year-old Patton pleaded guilty in U.S. District Court today and will be sentenced in October. Police in a Minneapolis suburb now working through the courts to get information on the murders of Johnston attorney Kevin Kelly and Barbara Lund. Police want a search warrant to get the medical records of Russell Lund, the prime suspect in the case. As News Center 13's Tom Hauser reports from Minneapolis, police have gotten very little information from family members of the victims.
Minnetonka police found the bodies of Kevin Kelly and Barbara Lund last Thursday in Russell Lund's home. Police found the bodies after receiving an anonymous phone tip. But that phone tip is about the only information police have received. Russell Lund emerged as the prime suspect primarily because he was in the process of divorcing Barbara Lund and because the bodies were found in his home. He's been interviewed briefly by police, but police say Lund family members have refused to answer even basic questions. And yesterday, Minnetonka Police Chief Richard Setter vented his frustration.
The facts in the investigation and our pursuit of those facts discloses that information was held from the police department as a result of an intentional effort. We will vigorously prosecute and present those facts to the county attorney's office for the filing of charges.
Because of the wall of silence put up by Russell Lund's family, police sought to obtain a search warrant for his medical records. Lund checked himself into a psychiatric ward of a Minneapolis hospital. Police want to know when he checked in and why.
If police can get the answers to those questions, they may find out much more about the possible involvement of Russell Lund in the murders of Barbara Lund and Kevin Kelly. If not, they may have to wait for more cooperation from family members. In Minneapolis, Tom Hauser, News Center 13.
Minnetonka police also trying to figure out how Kevin Kelly's car got back here to Des Moines before they could check it for evidence. Kelly's brother says Kevin Kelly's two daughters asked a friend to drive the car here.
A little scare at the corner of Hickman and Merle Hay Road today. Shortly after noon, a semi-truck got snagged on a support wire and pulled down a utility pole. When it toppled, 3 transformers went with it, spilling fluid as they cracked. Hazmat, as well as Midwest Power, was called in to clean up.